Republicans are pushing a new plan to raise the retirement age and for Social Security and cut Medicare spending. Yesterday, the Republican Study Committee, a group made up of more than 170 House GOP lawmakers, unveiled their budget proposal for next year. It calls for, quote, modest adjustments to the retirement age to account for increases in life expectancy and transforming Medicare into a premium support model. That model would see Medicare compete with private plans as a way to reduce spending. The budget proposal also endorses legislation, quote, designed to advance the cause of life by restricting abortion access. Among those bills, one that could threaten IVF, and another that would ban the federal government from producing abortion-inducing medication designed to save a mother's life. Joe.
With us now to tell us why he opposes everything that Mika just read. From a swing district, Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. He's a member of the Foreign Affairs and Financial Services Committees. So, Mike, let's just get these out of the way. You do not support altering Social Security or Medicare in its current form, do you?
No, not at all. And in fact, I've been very clear. I will oppose any cuts to Social Security or Medicare. No. Obviously, it is critically important that we protect both of these programs for our seniors. And so I will do everything I can to work in a bipartisan fashion to do that.
So, and Mike, because Mika and I have been watching Turning Point on Netflix, and we recommend that everybody does. And we just got through the Red Scare part. I feel comfortable asking you this question. Are you now, or have you ever been, sir, a member of the House Republican Study Group?
No.
Okay, there you go. No problem with that. I think I was a member of whatever was.
In fact, Joe, they told me I was not conservative enough to be welcome to it. So,
well, that's interesting because when I was there, they kicked me out because they said I was too conservative. So we started our own group. So, Mike, there are a couple of things here that I'm really concerned about, and I know a lot of Americans are, and I would guess you are too. And so, if you could help us, take us into the room, not of the extremists, but of the people that we followed. Chairman McCall, Chairman Turner, the people who have been responsible and actually supportive of what Ukrainians have been trying to do in keeping Putin's forces out of Kyiv. What is the latest status? And I kind of keep wondering, where are these leaders on Ukraine? When are they going to sign a discharge petition, or when are they going to push the speaker, well, to give the Ukrainians a fighting chance against Russian invaders?
Well, you know, Joe, this is of critical importance to the nation. Since I became a member of Congress, I've been pushing to continue to support Ukraine. As I've said many times, my wife is from Moldova. Her family lives on the Ukraine border. So it's personal. I understand the consequences of failure here. And from my vantage point, we have an obligation to support our allies. In 1994, when Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, we entered into a treaty, and we said we would protect them in the event of an invasion. And so we have to fulfill our commitments, especially if we ever want any country to believe us ever again when it comes to nuclear disarmament. And so this is important to get this across the finish line. It's why I worked with Brian Fitzpatrick and Jared Golden to introduce Defending Borders, Defending Democracies, which would provide lethal aid to Ukraine, to Israel, to Taiwan, as well as enact provisions to secure our border. And I have signed the discharge petition to get that to the floor. All of us in the House Republican Conference recognize the threat that is posed by China, by Russia, by Iran. The question is how we move forward. And I've made it very clear to the Speaker that the time for debate, the time for discussion is over. We need to act. And we will either do so by the Speaker putting a bill on the floor or by discharge petition. And I encourage my colleagues, we do not want to see Kiev fall. that will be a catastrophic disaster for the world. And if America loses its standing as leader of the free world, because we failed to recognize the threat, because we failed to act, that would be a disaster for our country. That would be a disaster for the Republican Party.
So, Congressman, I know in the Senate you have Republican leaders like John Thune, and in the House you have Republican leaders like Chairman McCall, Chairman Turner, who understand that it's not just Ukraine and Kyiv that's at risk, that this is sending a horrible signal to the Communist Chinese Party. And basically saying, you know, Putin, take Ukraine if you want to take Ukraine, and Xi, whenever you're ready to go into Taiwan, go into Taiwan. I mean, is there the understanding by the Speaker of the House and by people around him that if we don't defend Ukraine, then China takes that as an open invitation to invade Taiwan?
Look, American weakness on the international stage is never good. And, you know, I would submit that the withdrawal in Afghanistan was a precursor to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It showed weakness on our part as a nation. And any weakness that China sees with respect to Ukraine or with respect to Israel is an open invitation to invade Taiwan or set up a blockade. I went with Chairman McCall last year. We visited Japan, Korea, and Taiwan because we understand the threat posed in the Indo-Pacific. It's why I've introduced legislation to create a NATO-like alliance in the Indo-Pacific, because we have to deter and contain the threat of the Chinese Communist Party. And so this is critical. I suspect, in speaking with the Speaker, that as soon as we get the appropriations bills done tomorrow, that we will then move swiftly towards advancing legislation that will support our allies. That is my belief. That's my understanding from the Speaker, that we will work to get that done immediately upon our return. And that's my hope, because time is short. Ukraine needs the ammunitions. They need the weaponry. Israel needs the support. And Taiwan needs the support if we are to deter China from taking any action in the Strait of Taiwan. And remember, 60% of international trade goes through the Strait of Taiwan. If there's a blockade, that will create an economic catastrophe for the United States and the world.
Congressman, good morning. Yesterday, the White House called for an end to the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. We played some sound. Some conservative media figures, including those on Fox News, also have expressed real skepticism about its future. But yesterday, Chairman Comer said he wants the president himself to come testify before the committee. Would you support that effort? Do you still back this impeachment inquiry into the president?
Look, the reason I supported the impeachment inquiry was because the White House was refusing to cooperate with certain subpoenas. As I've said repeatedly, I did not believe there was sufficient evidence for an impeachment, but that obviously Congress has oversight responsibility and should continue down that road. However, that does not mean that we should go towards impeachment. I have yet to see any evidence that would warrant the rise to impeachment.